Otis Redding was born on September 9, 1941 in Dawson, Georgia. He was raised in a deeply religious family, and like so many legendary soul artists, Otis got his start singing in the church. His love for music led him to drop out of school at the age of 15 to pursue his passion full-time, eventually joining a band called Johnny Jenkins and the Pine Toppers. Otis' career really took off in 1962 when he recorded These Arms of Mine.
These arms of mine.
His unique combination of raw emotion, powerful vocals, and magnetic stage presence quickly earned him a reputation as the King of Soul. By the mid-60s, Otis had established himself as one of the greatest voices in soul music, with hits like Respect. And yes, I'm talking about the song that Aretha Franklin later made famous, and Try a Little Tenderness. But Otis wasn't just a singer, he was a gifted songwriter and a pioneer, constantly pushing the boundaries of what soul music could be. Now, let's talk about the song Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. In 1967, Otis was at a turning point in his career. After touring extensively and performing, he wanted to create something new, something that blended soul with folk and pop influences. While staying at a houseboat in Sausalito, California, he began writing what would become Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. The song was inspired by the peaceful view of the bay and his reflections of life, change, and solitude. What's fascinating is that Otis co-wrote this song with guitarist Steve Cropper. Together, they crafted a piece that was unlike anything Otis had done before.
Flew into Memphis to record. I always flew in the day before. Unusual this particular time. He always flew in, went, checked into the hotel, and called me about what time we're going to write tonight. This particular time, he went to a phone and called me and wanted to know if I was at the studio. And I said, yeah, I'm logging some tapes or whatever. And he said, I just want to know if you were there. I'm coming right down. I've got a hit. He never called me and said he had a hit. They were all hits. So this one, meaning Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, really didn't feel or act any different than any other song that others would have presented. Well, he come running in the studio and he said, get your guitar. He knew I had an acoustic guitar handy there that was tuned to a chord like he always did. And I don't remember him coming in with his guitar. He carried it all the time. He might have had it with him, and I can't remember. There's so many pictures of him with his guitar holding it, and he carried it everywhere he went without a case. And I kept saying he's going to hit that on something. He didn't care. But he didn't let anything happen to that guitar. The other thing about Otis, whether it was Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, what the idea was, he always had, I would say, at least 13, 14 ideas. Unfinished, just ideas, some titles, some verses, some this, some that, and he would bring them to me to help him finish them up, which I did. And in that particular case, we finished it pretty quick. I think the only music thing that I did, I wrote the bridge. It needed a bridge, and so I came up with just the simple little changes: 154, 154.
Let's dive deeper into the magic of Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. It's one of those songs that feels timeless, and every line carries weight. He opens with, "Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes." Otis sets the tone with an image of solitude and stillness. But what's fascinating is how this simplicity makes a much deeper emotional feeling. The song's lyrics suggest a man who feels lost, unsure of where life is taking him. If we look at the verse, "I left my home in Georgia, headed for the Frisco Bay, 'cause I've had nothing to live for, and look like nothing's gonna come my way." It's a universal feeling, a longing for a change, but also the quiet acceptance of life's uncertainties. Can you imagine that Otis was just 26 when he wrote this? I remember what I was doing at 26, and it's really amazing that he's able to capture emotions that feels much older, wiser, and more reflective at such a young age. And then there's the chorus. "I'm just sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away." This line perfectly encapsulates the balance between peace and resignation. It's as if Otis is saying, "I'm here, I'm watching, I'm waiting, but I'm not in control." That's something so many of us can relate to. Musically, the song is a masterpiece of subtlety. It opens with an acoustic guitar riff, soft, gentle, and unexpected for a soul song. And then there's the production. Steve Cropper, Otis's co-writer and guitarist, described how they used sound effects like seagulls and ocean waves to enhance the atmosphere. These additions weren't just creative, they were groundbreaking. They made the song feel alive, like you were sitting on the dock of the bay with Otis lost in thought. The arrangement is also worth noting. The song is sparse but intentional. The guitar, soft drums, and subtle string arrangements leave space for Otis's voice to shine. Every note feels purposeful, and that's the part of what makes the song so powerful. It's not just a story, it's an experience. And let's not forget that haunting whistle at the end. Did you know that that was a last-minute addition? Otis reportedly planned to write more lyrics but never got the chance to, so he whistled instead. It's such a small thing, but it leaves a huge impact. That whistle feels like the wind carrying his thoughts away, leaving the song open-ended and bittersweet. Even the emotional delivery of Otis's voice is extraordinary. He doesn't overpower the listener. Instead, he lets the emotion seep through naturally. You can hear the vulnerability in his tone, a stark contrast to the commanding power of his other hits. The restraint is what makes the song so moving. Ultimately, Sitting on the Dock of the Bay is more than just a song about watching the water. It's about life, transitions, and coming to terms with the things you can't control. It's a moment of quiet reflection in the midst of a chaotic world, and that's why it still resonates over 50 years later. As beautiful and timeless as Sitting on the Dock of the Bay is, the story behind its release is bittersweet. Tragically, Otis Redding never got to see the song's incredible success. In December 1967, just 3 days after recording the final version of the song, Otis boarded a plane with members of his band, the Bar-Kays, on their way to a performance in Wisconsin. But the plane never made it. It crashed into the icy waters of Lake Monona, taking the lives of Otis and most of the passengers. He was only 26 years old. Otis's death sent shockwaves through the music world. He was on the verge of achieving even greater fame, breaking down barriers as one of the first Black artists to gain widespread recognition across both soul and pop audiences. Despite the tragedy, Sitting on the Dock of the Bay was released in January 1968, and the response was nothing short of extraordinary. The song climbed to the top of the Billboard 100, making it Otis's first and only #1 single. Not only did the song become a massive commercial hit, but it also cemented Otis Redding's legacy as one of the greatest voices in music history. Sitting on the Dock of the Bay won 2 Grammy Awards in 1969 for the Best R&B Song and Best Male R&B Vocal Performance, and it has since sold millions of copies and been covered by countless artists across genres. And the accolades didn't stop there. In 1999, the song was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame. Rolling Stone magazine ranked it among the greatest songs of all time, and is consistently recognized as one of the defining tracks of the 20th century. The song continues to touch hearts around the world. It's a reminder of Otis's incredible talent and the beauty he brought to the world, even in such a short time. It's bittersweet to think about what he could have accomplished if he hadn't had more time, but in just 26 years, he gave us a legacy that will never fade. In closing, I have a question for you. What makes Sitting on the Dock of the Bay such a timeless classic?